got the cornfield calm, Midwest tone, but he's spitting facts like a dog with a bone. Lanky frame, fire-haired eyes on the case, breaking down the game in the darkest place. Sports scores to murder boards, Hoosier logic cuts like swords. From Friday lights to chalked out lines, this redhead's brain rewrites the lines. Inside the Hoosier mind, where the stories twist and stats unwind. He's a legend in flannel, mic in hand, digging deep where few can stand. From touchdowns to crime scenes raw, he's got the truth in every draw. Yeah, step in if you dare to find what's brewing inside the Hoosier mind. He'll talk Pacers, Colts, or Colts on trial. Hoosier humor with a devilish smile. He's that redhead sleuth with a box of clues. Takes your headline, breaks the news. With every stat and every scream, he's painting portraits in your stream. Don't blink, he'll tie it tight. From game night wins to murder flight. Inside the Hoosier mind, where the facts hit hard and the lines are blind. He's a ginger ninja, smooth and slick, cracking cases play by play quick. From courtrooms to the hardwood floor, he digs for more than just the score. Tune in and don't rewind, you're deep now inside the Hoosier mind.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice, as well as Gunfighter Beer Company. If you want great beer care products from a Marine in South Carolina, all of his products are natural. They're all locally sourced and all shipped out all through the U.S. Definitely check out Gunfighter Beer Co. I have a very special guest. He and I have actually talked a lot. I don't think he and I have ever actually been on a show together. But he is the man behind the scenes that helps run Military Broadcast Radio, helps make it a success. He's actually taught me quite a bit as far as a little bit more of how to utilize StreamYard a little bit better, so I don't look as quite like a goober as I usually do. But he helps with quite a bit of that, and I got the pleasure of being able to finally meet him face-to-face this year, and he is technically going to be my guest of the week, if I can find that little video of the special guest of the week part. There it is.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
All right, there he is. So it took me a second.
How are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Oh, I can sit here and complain all day, but that ain't gonna help nobody. So, I figured I'd come in. You'd be serious on the sports, and I'd be a jokester like I always am.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, heck, to be honest with you, that's my personality most of the time. Is if there's ever a serious situation, I'm like, oh, I got to be the guy that makes the inappropriate joke to make somebody laugh. I got to do it. I just can't help it. But man, I'm excited because we are finally in the time of year where football is back. Now, as somebody very well put it, we get a little bit of an appetizer because we have technically preseason football is already kicked off at the beginning of this month. But then we also have an appetizer as far as college football because week 0 officially kicks off on Saturday. The biggest matchup being UNC versus TCU over in Dublin, Ireland at 12 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Then the other big Power 4 matchup is North Carolina State versus Virginia, which we'll get into. But then, of course, like all offseason and as we get closer, we have to have that last little bit of drama thrown in there as far as sports goes. Deshaun Watson, amidst all of his things, has been named quarterback number 1 to start the season for the Cleveland Browns. And then there's a little bit of an upset as far as the college football world because we have college football players returning back to college, even though they technically went pro, even if it was only for, the length of a cup of coffee, they still went pro nonetheless. Right. But let's dive into the first part that I know you're excited about, Joel. Deshaun Deshaun Watson named the starter for the Cleveland Browns amidst everything. Man, this is just, it's such a mess. This was something that was talked about all last year, who was going to be the starter for Cleveland. Deshaun was hurt. Then it was a toss-up between Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel. Now we come into this year, Shedeur, he did the best with what he could. It wasn't like he was turning anybody's heads, but it seemed like the team played better under him. Deshaun is healthy. They're paying him the money, whether he's on the roster, whether he's not on the roster. All of that money is guaranteed. The media says, no, don't start him. The fans say, don't start him. Deshaun Watson even said, don't start me. And the Browns said, you know what? This is our guy. Joel, I know you are a resident Denver Broncos fan, but you're pretty much a sports fan in general. What's your thoughts on this whole Deshaun Watson?
Well, the first thing is, and just like any relationship, even in a football team, you enter the relationship the same way you exit the relationship. When he was at Houston, he thought he was going to get bypassed with all like the penalties and all the what we'll call it, the drama. Okay.
Yes.
And now he's in Cleveland, and he sits there and he's complaining to the fan base, which you don't ever do that. Okay. No. You sit there and complain to the fan base. Oh, okay. All right. Well, when I got hurt, when my ankles got torn up, you guys booed me. Brother, I hate to tell you, but they didn't boo you because you got hurt. They didn't boo you just because of your past. They booed you because right now the way you're playing is terrible. It is terrible. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've done great in college. That doesn't translate over to the pros, and that's what people seem to fail to realize. Just because you was an all-star in college doesn't mean that it's going to reciprocate in the NFL. And we're seeing that now. We kind of saw that when Tim Tebow was playing. Hey, MJ.
I know she's excited.
Oh yes. Oh, now I get to hear you guys trade insults all through college.
It's gonna be a great time.
But I but I tell you, I do feel bad for the Cleveland Brown fans because I do feel strongly that Baker Mayfield was really a good quarterback for them. Stuff happens. The Cleveland Browns kind of stepped on their special purpose, and they keep on stepping on their special purpose, and I tell you what, one of the things that I do want to highlight, and I know this is like one of the top stories, but I think it's a huge thing to spotlight, to shed some light, that the Dallas Cowboys, they have drafted their first Navajo Indian. Like, I did not know that, but the NFL now has a Navajo player. And, the reason why I think that's such a big deal is because, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you are, like minority wise. Sometimes you feel alone in a league, Yeah. And now we have this Navajo Indian that has embraced it, and I love the way he brought in the team, saying, hey, we play as a team, we fight as a team, kind of thing. And I think it's very inspirational, especially since till this day, the natives kind of they kind of get the cold shoulder every once in a while. So I'm glad that this happened. But yeah, he needs to really just he needs to just be quiet and let his talk be on the field instead of being on the podium. Because you know as well as I do, nobody cares what you say; they care what you do.
Yeah, and hopefully I'm not butchering his name. If I do, and anybody happens to know, please correct me. The Dallas Cowboys player who's a offensive tackle is Shiaz Pete or Pete. I don't know. It's Pete. It looks like Pete to me, but maybe it's enunciated differently.
Hey, don't ask me, man. I'm Swedish chef. Have you seen my episodes? I've butchered some people's names, you know.
So if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me. Anybody in the comments can feel free to correct me, but I need you to spell it out like I'm 6, okay? When I say spell out, I mean tell me how to enunciate it. Don't just give me the letters. But no, I do agree. I think for Cleveland Browns fans, you've been stuck in this perpetual loop ever since the Cleveland Browns came back to the city as a franchise. You know, it's we're rebuilding, we're going to build back to the future, we're rebuilding,
and that's not even counting the turmoil that they went through when the Baltimore Ravens took the Cleveland Browns team.
Exactly.
You know? Same thing that happened with the Baltimore Ravens and the Indianapolis Colts. Same thing happens, you know.
But it's one of those they've been quote unquote rebuilding for so long. It's been such a struggle and such a turmoil for Browns fans. You know, it's like, okay, we've been doing this for over 30 years. Yep. At what point does the rebuild stop? Because you keep saying it's a rebuild, and it's like, oh, we're gonna just toss everything and do it again, and you never give anything enough time to sit there and establish. But you brought up the point of Baker Mayfield. I felt like when they had Kevin Stefanski, you had Baker. It's like, okay, you finally kept continuity as far as a coach and quarterback goes. Baker, you know, he's a little cocky. He's got a little swag to him. You know, he's going to trash talk. You know, he's going to have some really good performances. He's going to have some really down performances. But it seemed like he truly embodied and truly embraced Cleveland. And he kind of gave them that swagger that they were missing as far as, hey, I may not be the best quarterback, but I'm going to tell you I'm the best quarterback. And when I'm going out there, and his quote, when I feel dangerous, like everybody's in trouble. You know, the poor dude gets hurt. He tries to play through an injury like how most fans would probably want him to, as far as, hey, we need you out there to, you know, keep us competitive, to keep us relevant. You know, unfortunately, that ends up falling through, and, you know, Baker now is in Tampa as a starter. But the other issue, too, that I think Deshaun, I don't know if he realizes this or not, not only are the fans are really judging you primarily on your past, because that's all they have to go off of.
Right.
You've been there since 2023, if I remember correctly. You've played 19 games for them. And in the 19 games that you've played in the 3 seasons you've been there have not been good. There's little to no evidence of any type of positivity as far as, you know, quarterback play. Like if they're playing and they're losing, okay, that, you know, that's one thing. But it's not even close. I mean, they're getting absolutely destroyed. He's not there for the last year and a half as far as being available to play. So the only thing the fans have to go off of is, okay, we have crappy quarterback play, and you had a whole lot of drama in Houston as far as allegations and whatnot go. So there's not a lot for them to go off of.
For sure, you know, and I tell you what, like that movie that they made, Draft Day or whatever, boy, did they describe the Cleveland Browns to this day. I think the Cleveland Browns, I think where they're going wrong is every time they do a draft or something, like they have to make like a showbiz pick or something, kind of like Draft Day, you know. Yeah. I think their bad luck started when and it put them behind 10 or 12 years, I think, was when they picked Johnny Manziel. I mean, we remember that, you know. That guy was waiting forever. I thought it was going to be a skull, you know. He was supposed to be like a first round, and they just waited and it's things like that, you know. Because even though teams can work together, it's really hard being in a locker room when it's a circus. It really is, you know. Yeah. Football players are no different than other people. When somebody starts getting a lot of attention and they don't feel like, you know, they're getting any attaboys or any support, well, then, you know, they're like, I hate to say that they don't guard them as much, but they don't take care of them as much if they're not taking care of them. And we saw that in the NFL. I mean, hell, you're a Colts fan. You saw that with Andrew Luck. You know, Andrew Luck could have been great, but the ownership, the manager, the leaders, they kind of ruined that. They really did.
Yeah, and it was funny. I don't know if you've seen it or if you ever want to take. I think it's about a 5-minute clip. The interview itself, I think, is like 2 hours. Eric Ebron, one of the former tight ends for the Colts, is in it, and he's being interviewed by several other players. I think a Titans player and a couple others. He actually talked about his last year in Indy and his last year with Luck, and he's like, Luck and I are both in there. We're both hurt, like we're both rehabbing. He's like, we're going through practices and, we're just getting absolutely crushed offensive and defensively. He goes, but then Luck comes in. He goes, man, he comes in for a drive. He goes, that's my quarterback. Everybody's hyped. And he said that it was weird too, because Luck apparently did not trust the team doctors, that apparently he hired his own medical staff to come in and evaluate him, make sure that he was good. And much to your point, for the leadership, what does that say when your star quarterback that is replacing another star quarterback in Peyton Manning? What does that say when he's like, yeah, I don't trust your medical staff and their judgment. Like, I need you to figure it out or do something different.
I think that's something usual. I think that all NFL players are like that to a point, because we've seen it at the end of like their 5-year draft that they can take that extra option or whatever. I mean, the people get mad at these football players and say, oh, he's getting paid too much. Okay, well, I get that, but it's not your money. It's the NFL's money. Who cares how much he's getting paid? Is he producing? For the longest time.
Yeah.
Here in Denver, a really good example would be Von Miller. Von Miller has had a successful career. He's went to this place. He's went to that place, and now recently, before he went and signed with the I believe the Washington Redskins. Or was it Dallas Cowboys? I forget.
Cowboys are the newest, yeah.
Yeah. So before he went there, everybody here in Denver's really bad about bandwagon fans. We really are. And when he was getting ready to, come out, hey, this will probably be my last year. Everybody's like, hey, we need Von Miller. No, we don't. People don't understand that, he's not the same person that he was when he was there. There's a reason why we got rid of him. Everybody sits there and, when free agency comes, before draft, and we get this player and we get this player. I forget what player it was. And I met him as a person, but he was really good. He was a 49er, and he went over to the Denver Broncos. He played in a game in the Super Bowl. He caught one pass, and it was the only pass I've ever seen in the Super Bowl that went negative 8 yards. This is supposed to be an excellent receiver. But see, the thing is just because they're an excellent receiver here doesn't mean they're going to be an excellent receiver there. And I think people fail to realize it. It's kind of like going to Walmart. You'd think that the vegetable aisle is here at Walmart, but all Walmarts are different. So it takes a while for them to, accommodate, where the locker room is, where football field is, where the training room is. Some people that might not be a big deal, but for football players, especially in the NFL, that's a huge deal, especially those that are very, very superstitious. Yes. I know a football player that never changed his boxers for the whole season because they were winning. Okay, so they're very superstitious.
Hey, most fans usually are too. It was like when I would watch football, it's like there were some seasons it was like if I watch the game, they would win. If I don't watch the game, they'll win. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not watching their games this year. But no, I do think there comes a point with a lot of fans, and you have to realize at the end of the day, all of these organizations is a business. Like they are in it to make money.
Right. And everybody wants these players to take like a hometown discount and stuff like that. But it's like, you know, you wouldn't take a discount if you know, at your job, you know.
Nope.
You know, it's like telling somebody that's, you know, expecting to have like $25 or $26 an hour. You go to them and say, hey, we want you back, but we're going to give you $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, you've been promoted.
Yep.
That kind of thing, you know? It's like we can't fault them for that.
No. And part of it's the nostalgia and that too. It's like, you know, for Von Miller, you know, you think about it, he's towards the end of his career.
Oh yeah.
It's like he's going to try to get every little bit and every, you know, dime penny that he can get. And I don't blame him, because it's like, and not saying he can't potentially have another career successfully if he wants to go into like broadcasting or color commentary or whatever path he decides to go to, he'll be successful. But nonetheless, though, it's like, hey, while I still can and while I can still do it playing the game that I grew up playing and that I love, I'm absolutely going to do it. But no, I mean, I do agree, and it will be interesting to see how, you know, how Cleveland handles this whole Deshaun situation, because for him, he's already got his money. Like they're already set and solid as far as that goes. But to kind of bring up to your point, though, as far as, you know, guys trying to get as much as they can as far as money goes, there's been a huge stink in the football world, especially in college football, about college players returning back to college from the pros, especially in the preseason. Now, the two players that have been in the news most recently, both ironically former Ole Miss players by my LSU Tigers head coach Lane Kiffin, Xavier Harris and Daquan Wright, both were on preseason rosters. I believe it is Daquan Wright is he's going to clear waivers as of Wednesday if no team picks him up. And then if he does, he will be able to go back to LSU to play football after technically being on a preseason roster, playing in the preseason and going back to college. Now, I do want to say, because a lot of people have kind of made a stink about this, the Big Ten even announced that they were going to pass the bill, and they ended up passing it a short bit ago. Basically, any player that goes to the NFL, whether it's draft, whether it's preseason, whatever the case may be, they are not allowed to return back to college football, at least in the Big Ten. And I do want to clarify something on this, is that this rule, well, this whole entire situation only applies football-wise to like 16 guys. It's like 100 athletes across sports, like all across college athletics. But football-wise, it's only like 16 guys. And basically, this comes from the class of 2022. They kind of feel slighted that basically the COVID class, and I believe 2021, they get the extra year because of COVID. They got an extra year, a couple years to be able to play football, college football a little bit longer. And then they, of course, passed the rule starting, I can't remember when the rule officially starts. I believe it's 2023 is when it starts. That basically, once you come into college football, you only have 5 years maximum play. Basically, the oldest age you can be coming out of college football is 24. So they're a little bit peeved that, hey, we're kind of that middle child that isn't getting the exception to the rule. So there's been a few courts in Colorado. There's been a court in Louisiana. All of them have basically filed temporary restraining orders against the NCAA to say, hey, we believe that we should be able to play. Judges have signed off on it, so therefore these guys are able to come back to college football. Now, Joel, I don't know how much college football you watch, but at least from your perspective, though, there's kind of this unwritten rule that once you go pro, you don't come back to college. No matter how good you were, no matter how much fans might want you to come back, you just can't do it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I also agree that and I know that people are going to come at me in the comments about this, but I also do agree that Fridays for high school, Saturdays for college, and Sundays for NFL football. Now, I'm just like any other fan. I love football. I do. I love football. Do I like football on Mondays? Hell yeah. Do I like footballs on Thursdays? Hell yeah. Do I like Thursday? Do I like Sunday football? Hell yeah. I love all that. But even though I like it, I can tell you that the quality of the football performing since they started all these different days and ever since they started, flying into England and doing all these games and stuff, like I find the quality of football very lacking. Like I don't see I don't want to say the hard hits, but like I don't see the motivation. I don't see the running. I don't see the like, just going at it, I don't see that anymore. I really don't. I think the one even the Denver Broncos, like unless they're ahead a bunch of touchdowns, like I don't see any like woo kind of plays and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I really do feel that Thursday night football has watered down the NFL to a certain bit, Yeah. And if they want to do overseas football, that's fine. That's what I thought. Like, the UFL, AFL, XFL, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought they were for. They were for kind of like a summer camp. Mm-hmm. Learning to be a pro kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But a lot of things have changed. And I know the big thing that they changed it was last year. Big thing that they changed was the way the kickoffs were.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is what I don't like about that, Tony. I don't like that they keep changing the NFL rules. Like, you should have rules for high school, and those rules should trickle down up to the NFL. There shouldn't be any rule change. I mean, we're still kicking off regular at high school, and then when you go to pro, it's like, what the hell's this? Mm-hmm. They keep changing the football game, and I really like the Leatherheads. I really like that form of football, but they keep changing it. They keep changing the finesse of it. Mm-hmm. And it's just not as entertaining.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. And I think for part of this too is, the UFL and whatnot. Like you said, I think it's good for a good in between. And some people may agree with this, some may not, and hopefully nobody takes offense to it. I kind of see football as like a drug. Like, and you got to get your fix. So it's like you have your fix from basically the end of August, beginning of September, all the way through February when the Super Bowl ends. And then it's like you're sitting there and you get a couple weeks off, like, okay, I'm off. And then into February, beginning of March comes, it's like, damn, I miss football. Kind of really want football back. And maybe you can kind of get it soothed a little bit through, March Madness and the NCAA tournament. And then it's like, okay, after that, it's like, oh crap, I got to have my fix. Like now what? So then they make the UFL for spring football. And, like you said, the quality just isn't there as much because it's, a bunch of guys that they finished college. Maybe they weren't necessarily great for an NFL roster. Maybe they weren't able to make an NFL roster. So this is kind of a chance for them to have a second opportunity to maybe make a professional roster again, moving forward. But I will say too, you talked about how the NFL has changed as far as the rules with kickoff and whatnot. That's what a lot of people are aggravated with college football right now, and especially like this situation where you have guys that, and I'll be honest, I'm a little bit more for this specific situation in them coming back to college football. And the reason being is just to make it easier as far as timeline, and obviously there's little stuff in between there. Most of these guys last played football January time frame, and they're not technically playing football again until beginning of August. Now, obviously, there's rookie mini camps, there's training camps, there's all that in between there. But let's just say, for the sake of argument's purposes, it's only 6 months removed from playing college football. Now, if they had been in the NFL like 2 years and then they try to come back, like, no, you you've already moved on. Like you just got to take the loss. Like your college days are behind you. You're in the pros. You got to move forward with what you got.
Well, hell, we're not even doing physical activity, but when we broadcast, Tony, if we take a day off from like 2 broadcasts, or we're gone for like 2 weeks, like you're rusty. You're like, I forgot to do this or something. You have to do a repetition, and I mean it's the same thing in the NFL. I don't really have an opinion on once they go to the NFL, they can come back to college. I don't have a real opinion on it because, like that's assuming this isn't going to work or this can't work. And we don't want to assume. We want to know. So the only way you're going to find out is if you test it. Kind of like they was. I think last year they finally tested in college to where the players would get stipends off of like the ticket sales and stuff. It was starting that last year, and I mean, don't knock it until you try it, so it might work.
Well, and I think for a lot of people too, they don't like how much college football has changed because, again, I don't know how much you follow college football. College football is a very tradition-based sport. Like for the longest time, conferences were primarily based off of geography. So it was like the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC, is like primarily everybody's on the East Coast, but now they've added California and Stanford all the way over on the West Coast. And it's like, wait a minute, they don't belong in the ACC. Or like, the Big Ten, is primarily a Midwestern conference, but now they have Maryland and Rutgers on the East Coast, but then they also have Oregon, Washington, and then Southern California. It's like, wait a minute, no. This doesn't make any sense. So for them, when they see guys leave and then it's like they get to come back, people are kind of up in arms about it. And like I said, it's only for a small number of players, and everybody's kind of freaking out that it's the end of the world. And don't get it twisted. There are still a lot of issues in college football that need to be addressed and fixed as far as, it's just a wild west as far as whoever has the most money to spend on buying players can basically do it. And there's nothing you can do to stop it.
And, you was asking me, like, you don't know how much I follow college football. Like, hey, I used to follow college football religiously when I was in high school. Like, the big team, of course, in Indiana, Notre Dame, like that. That's the cream of the crop. And I lost a lot of respect for college that year. I believe Lou Holtz had just exited as coach, and it was a new coach. And Notre Dame, like they lost every game. They were like 2-12 or something like that, but they still got the chance to go to the bowl. And it's like, wait a minute, hold up. You're telling me that these guys don't even have a winning team, and you guys are sending them to the bowl because they can bring in money. And ever since then, like I can't watch football. And if I'm not mistaken, last year that same situation came down the line for what was it? Was it Alabama?
Miami.
Miami. Okay.
Miami.
Yeah.
Yep.
Miami.
Yep.
So, that's what I mean. Like they need to have something organized or something kind of like the NFL, because that shit won't fly in the NFL. Why is it flying in college? But again, we keep changing rules in the football era, and we're still kicking off regular in high school
and college. Yeah, the kickoff's the same in college too.
That's what I mean. So I don't like it. I kind of blame it all on Roger Goodell, because Roger Goodell, he's not acting like a commissioner for the football league. He's acting like a pimp when it comes to the teams and stuff. How can I get the top dollar? That's how it is.
And apparently that is the primary reason. So apparently he got another raise, and I heard recently, I think the math of what he's making is like $70 million a year of a raise that he got from the owners, because basically like every single year since he's taken over, their profits have just continued to grow and grow and grow as far as margins go. So I mean, yeah, he absolutely, he runs it. I will say he's not as, because I am not a fan of Goodell either. I've not been a fan of him for a long time.
Who likes Goodell? Like who?
The owners do. There's like 32 owners that like him because they keep keeping him.
Yeah, the owners are gonna like him because they put money in his pocket, but like nobody else is. Nobody else likes him, you know.
Because he came into the league, the league was, in a turmoil. They had disciplinary issues, so he came in to basically be the big bad sheriff that was going to clean everything up. But there was so much inconsistencies and stuff that was punished on guys, and it's like, is it really that deep, or are you just wanting to basically, whip your junk out on the table and say I'm the big dog in the room? And now, yeah, it's like he doesn't do that as much anymore. And now it's just, hey, I'm in the money making business. Like you pointed out, as far as, hey, let's have a game. Again, Monday Night Football, it's a classic. Love Monday Night Football. Same, right. All day Sunday, from 12 o'clock Eastern all the way to, to midnight, basically, when Sunday Night Football comes to an end. It's like that. That's 12 hours of football, and it's beautiful. Yeah. But then, like you said, it's like Thursday Night Football, and especially, they even started pointing it out on the internet and Amazon, and you can even hear it in the color commentator's voice. It's like, oh, hey, Thursday Night Football game. We have the 1-10 Titans versus like the 1-10 Jaguars. It's like, oh yeah, this is a crap game that nobody wants to watch. But then, like you said too, they're doing it overseas, and they're getting great pops from overseas. But here's the thing I think they need to realize is you're getting those pops overseas because it doesn't happen very often, because they're not used to that.
Exactly.
And it's like anything, the more you do it, the less it's going to be like, like it was cool like 5 years ago when you would come here every, only once or twice a year. Now you come here every other game.
And they're not thinking about the players, just take a Hall of Famer like Emmitt Smith. Okay. Mm-hmm. Emmitt Smith, he played, I think, 9, 10, 11 years as a running back. Mm-hmm. Hall of Fame, right?
Yep.
You're lucky if you have a running back now that goes over 5 years.
Yep.
Because of the game increase, because of the Thursday night games, mm-hmm. because of overseas, and the traveling. Yeah. The traveling, it makes a big deal. Let me tell you, any football fans that are watching, whenever you see a team going against another team, like, automatically put it at 50%, because there's a good chance that home team is going to win the game, because they don't have to do any traveling. Mm-hmm. They don't have to go through any like superstitious. In fact, true story. Matt Prater was a kicker for the Denver Broncos for the longest time.
Yep.
And Matt Prater, I was good friends with him. And he was a fan of the Hawk. In fact, like when game time came, his parents would always call him and say, "Hey, you're gonna have a good game. We just saw a Hawk." They used to do that every single time. He used to have hawks and stuff on his locker, on his necklace. That's why you always saw that necklace around him, He was very superstitious when it came to hawks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not the only football player. A lot of them are like that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just so it is weird though. It's weird what fans do as far as superstitions, even like you said, what football players do as far as how they take care of themselves, how they prepare. But it is also interesting too. Somebody brought up the point. I think it was Brady Quinn, maybe on his show on Fox Sports Radio. They brought up the point that you have a new entire breed of athletes that these guys are 6'5", they're like 235, 240, and they're running track meet numbers of like ultimate track Olympians of 4.4s, 4.3s, and it's like, holy moly, a dude that size and that speed should not be moving at that kind of a pace.
Right.
But it's also, and you've watched football a little bit longer than I have, not to date you or anything like that, but it does seem like, to an extent, the quality of football player has kind of gone down, because when these guys are healthy, they are some of the best athletes out there as far as the numbers that they're able to put up and what they're able to produce. But like you said, how many times do you see a running back now that can make it 12 years in the league and still be productive?
Oh, I know. I know.
I mean, you look at somebody like Ezekiel Elliott, who he was hot coming out of college, and he was hot his first few years in the NFL. But if you look at his statistics, it's like every single year his yards per carry would start to go down into a point where it's like, hey, you're barely getting 2 to 3 yards a carry whenever you run. And it's like,
look at CJ Anderson. Like, that kid could run, but I mean, let's face it, he only really lasted 3 years.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
he had a huge loads of concussions, and the NFL has changed the rules to, help concussions. How about we, instead of changing rules, how about we invest more in the training and, playing safe and different things like that,
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing exactly when, we're talking about, the high school rules are different than the NFL rules,
Mm-hmm.
If you're used to ruck marching 10 miles and you go 20 miles, it's going to take a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, like I said, it's one of those. I always enjoy football. I'm excited to see, ultimately what comes of this season, especially the NFL, because I feel like, honestly, the NFL is more wide open now than what I feel like it has been in a very, very long time. Because
I'm interested to see how Indiana University bounces back this year now that they lost their quarterback, and I'm especially interested in seeing. I can't pronounce his name. Go figure. But he was drafted to the Raiders.
Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how he does. I really am. Every time he talks, he sounds like a very positive player. Has a little bit of a sense of humor. I wouldn't say he's cocky. I would say he's confident, and I would say that he's pretty humble. But I'm interested to seeing how some of these guys, come out playing.
Yeah, he's also one I want to see how he does, because this will also be our first true insight to what does the success of Tom Brady look like post NFL. Like, we already see him announcing, games on Fox as a color commentator, but now that he's a partial owner of the Raiders, how much of a hand did he have in picking Fernando, and then how much of a hand does he have now as a partial owner of, hey, this is the tips and tricks I'm going to give you of what I did when I was playing. Like, this is how you need to do this. This is how, this is going to kind of be the first chance to see how does Brady move into that role of basically what Bill Belichick did for so many years of, I'm going to find a guy, we're going to plug him into this system, and we're going to make it work. Because, as we've started to learn now, it was a whole lot more of Tom making it work on the field than it was just Bill Belichick, picking the players, especially considering Tom was able to have more success after he left and Bill has kind of since fallen off. But I'm glad you brought that up, because two teams that actually tie in with this, North Carolina, who is now coached by Bill Belichick, as well as they take on TCU and Dublin, Ireland on Saturday on ESPN at 12 p.m. Eastern. Their former quarterback is now the quarterback at Indiana, and Josh Hoover. There's potentially a whole lot of upside there. He's very athletic. He's actually a little bit more athletic than what Fernando Mendoza was. But the matchup overall, and Joel, you can give me your thoughts as far as how you think this is ultimately going to go. But as of right now,
is Belichick's girlfriend going to be on on the field, because if she's going to be on the field, then that could possibly be a distraction. And I think that's one of the reasons why Belichick wasn't very good last year as a coach. I mean, you got to remember, Belichick is the first coach to get traded by the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so he isn't the greatest he isn't the greatest coach in the world. It was a great combination of him and Brady and Bledsoe. Because remember, Brady took Bledsoe's position. Okay, Patriots didn't really suffer a quarterback loss like they have recently.
Yeah.
But I think Belichick is a really good coach. But I do think that it doesn't take much to be a distraction. Yeah. We saw that during all the different scandals in New England, especially the Deflategate.
Deflategate, yep. Yes. And the Spygate.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because North Carolina has had distractions, this offseason, because their general manager had to step down. And, it's believed that he was one of the biggest parts in hiring Bill Belichick. And now it just seems like all of North Carolina's coaching staff is this, nepotism-filled coaching tree of basically every one of Bill Belichick's previous, coworkers or people that he liked has followed him there to North Carolina. And it's just kind of like he's trying to, ride out his glory days still being a coach. But it's been an absolute disaster. I mean, it's obviously he can't recruit well. He can't utilize the transfer portal well. I mean, there was all that hype last year, and they got absolutely blown out.
I'm telling you, it's a distraction. Now, hey, look, I've been married for 15 years. I enjoy it. I love it. Nothing's hurt me. But it seems like whenever football players or coaches, whenever they get into a relationship or they get married or anything like that, their production drops. And there's a reason for that. Their production drops because in high school, Tony, remember in high school, if we were serious about sports in our senior or junior year, we dropped down from 3 sports to 1 sport because we was trying to get that college ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's changed. So usually, like for example, Bo Nix. Mm-hmm. I like Bo Nix. Okay, mm-hmm. He had a good year last year, right? Yeah. But that was his rookie year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now that his surgery and all that stuff is done, I'm kind of scared, because usually what happens is these players, they do really good the first year, or they do, somewhat okay the first year, and then they do better the second year. And then after that, after they get the aroma, the atmosphere, the smell, everything, they change. Mm-hmm. They always change. So it's going to be interesting to see how Bo Nix, reflects this season. Like there was a huge uproar here in Denver because, our first game, we were like up like 27 to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you guys, settle down. It's preseason.
Yeah.
Half
those dudes aren't even going to be on the roster by the time the first week comes around.
People need to understand that, when we play preseason, usually the first half is always like the first starters. And then the second half is the backups. And then the thirds is the thirds. And then third and fourth quarter is usually scrubs. Those are the ones that are on the bubble trying to fight to get a roster spot. Mm-hmm. So preseason, yeah, great. I love it. Football, awesome. Football is definitely better than watching Chicago Fire or Chicago PD any day, okay? But we have to also understand that it's preseason, and we're not seeing everything. We're not seeing everything. We're not seeing the moves, And, I hate to tell you this, but look, as a Denver Bronco fan, I can tell you that however they were last year, don't expect them to be like much better the following year. It is what it is, and I didn't see Denver Broncos make very many like huge trades or drafts this year. I didn't see anything that really like spoke out. So I do believe that the Broncos will make it past the postseason if Bo Nix doesn't get hurt. But I am very worried about his ankle. Hell, he hadn't even got on the field and he had 3 ankle surgeries. I don't care if they were little. I don't care if they were just cleanup. It's still an issue.
Yeah, and it's still something that your body has to recover from, especially in a high active sport and a high, trying to think of the right word, and I just can't think of it off the top of my head. A championship level and just a high impact as well, high impact sport such as football. But I am excited to see because he is going into his 3rd season now. He had a great sophomore season technically last year under Sean Payton. I do wonder what that relationship looks like because there's a little bit of the back and forth of Sean's like, oh, his ankle's not ready, and Bo Nix is like, no, it's fine, and the kind of the argument back and forth.
Sean Payton's a prick. I mean, he's thrown this kid under the bus. I don't know how many times. So trust me, they might be on the same page, but they're not the same idealistic.
Yeah.
There's parts where I think that Sean Payton wishes that he never drafted him because of this whole ankle issue, and he kind of said that out in public during a media conference. And sometimes it's best to keep your mouth shut. Like I say, sometimes in the world, everybody's like a Denver Bronco. We tell people what they want to hear. We don't exactly tell them the truth.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad too because Bo Nix, he was really good, especially when he was at Auburn. For as bad as Auburn was, like he made Auburn relevant, and then he did wonders at Oregon. So I mean, I thought it was a great pickup, and he's older. He picked up the system really well. Obviously, they got Jalen Waddle from the Dolphins, so that gives them a true number 1 receiver for him to be able to work with. And you're right, they did manage to bring most everybody back on both sides of the ball. Now, like you said, that doesn't immediately mean that they're going to replicate the same success that they had. It's one of those football and really sports in general. Any given day that you're playing an opponent can happen, especially like in a professional sport where you've got 32 teams and these are supposed to be the best of the best guys playing football currently in the world. And yeah, any given day, somebody could come in, even if they're 0-10, they could come in, hit you in the mouth, and next thing you know, you're losing to the team that's already lost 10 games.
Yep, and NFL players are they're not what's the word I'm life be life and for NFL players too, and watch that. I forget who it was, but there was that one time he wasn't playing very good. Well, hell, he wasn't playing very good. Oh, Demetrius Thomas. Remember Demetrius Thomas?
Oh, Demetrius Thomas?
He wasn't playing very good because his mom was in jail and they were getting ready to pardon her. And and he wanted her to come and watch, and we got to remember that even though these football players are, ultimate athletes, life be life and too. So make sure that you kind of watch the drama box also when it comes to Sunday, especially when you're picking your fantasy draft team. And I have to remind you that I think I think till the final timeout, I think they're going to do an NFL draft thing this year. So you'll want to grab onto that.
Okay. But yeah, and I know it's probably a little bit dated for maybe some of the potential younger viewers, but when I believe it was a Monday Night Football game, Brett Favre lost his dad. I think he lit up the Raiders. There was like 6 touchdowns that night. So I mean,
that's the Raiders.
Yeah, it's true. It is the Raiders, but still.
The Raiders are almost as bad as the Denver Broncos, to where we could be better than the other team, and like we play to their level. Yeah. I mean, the Raiders and the Broncos, they're the same. They're the same team. They both play to their opponent's level.
Yeah, they play down to their opponents, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But real quick, though, as far if you had to make a pick, so as of right now, North Carolina versus TCU, according to ESPN odds, they have TCU at -7.5, so they're a little over a touchdown favorite to beat North Carolina. According to the predictor, they have TCU winning by 51.5%. Is their prediction over North Carolina?
Well, again, I gotta go back to, if Belichick still has that girlfriend of his, and she's gonna be at the game, I wouldn't expect anything different. I think it's gonna be the same as last year, especially if I don't pay attention to upperclassmen who how they did last year compared to how they did this year. But if it's one of those things, if a duck quacks, chances are it's still a duck. So I wouldn't expect anything great or big. I mean, we saw that with the Colorado Buffaloes when Deion Sanders was here, and his kids were a part of the team. They were really good, and then that next year, so you gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah. And then the next big game, I mean, there's some other games, but this is the next big one that kind of matters. We have North Carolina State going to Virginia. So luckily it's still here in the States, so it's not too far. It's just up in Charlottesville. As of now, ESPN has University of Virginia. They are -5.5 point favorites, and ESPN has them as a 68% chance of winning over NC State. If you had to pick, who would you pick to probably win that game?
So before I pick, I have one question, Tony, because again, I don't really follow a whole lot of college football. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about Virginia State, are we talking about the Virginia State that has the big, like the AC/DC song coming on and the crowd really gets into it?
Nope, that's Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. Okay. All right. Because I was going to say, if they're going against Virginia Tech, they're screwed because that's a lot. That's a lot of hoopla to fight. Yeah. Virginia is a home.
Yep. They're at home. They were just in the ACC championship game last year. I think they are coming off of a pretty decent season. Now I know we talked about it. Previous season doesn't necessarily matter, but they did do really well last year.
So they still have momentum. They still have momentum, and it's a home game. I would probably take them by at least a field goal.
Yeah, they finished 11-3 last year, including their bowl win. So I mean, they did really well last year, especially considering they were kind of one of those teams that nobody really expected them to, I guess, do much, and they just kind of quietly kept on chugging, and lo and behold, they're there. Now, NC State also didn't do bad last year, including their bowl win. They finished 8-5, so they were kind of middle of the pack. They did get a win against Virginia last year. They were one of the few teams that beat them. They beat them 35-31. Yeah. Now, obviously, last year's game doesn't matter because North Carolina State was hosting them, and obviously everybody had different players. But they did get a win against them last year. Okay. So that in mind,
I would agree with you. I think Virginia would take it just because they have the momentum from last year.
Yeah, I think so. And I believe, if I remember, they did actually get a really good quarterback in the draft, or not the draft, the transfer portal, in Bo Pribula. He played for Mizzou last year. Actually had a really good season up until getting hurt. So they have an experienced guy who's been around the league for a little bit, been in a few different systems. So I think they kind of have the edge as far as the quarterback battle goes. And NC State lost a few big guys to the transfer portal, primarily to Texas. So they might be hurting a little bit as far as that goes. Okay. But nonetheless, though, brother, that is it. That's all I got for today. I appreciate you joining me and talking some ball with me, man. It's one of those
Hey,
we've been talking about this forever.
I know, no problem, no problem at all. And I'm not gonna do a cheap shot on the Indianapolis Colts, even though I think I'm the only Hoosier in the world that I support the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't support the Indianapolis Colts. I do not like the owner. Terrible character. Even after he passed, I don't like them. But my question to you is, what are your thoughts on the Colts? You think this is going to be a good season? Because if I'm not mistaken, you guys' schedule this year it's a little bit weaker compared to last year.
It's a little weaker. It's one of those. I look at it and it's kind of the same issue is what does the quarterback situation look like? Daniel Jones is also coming off of a major injury. Obviously, you could tell once you basically stopped the Colts from being able to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor, and Daniel Jones had to be a quarterback for more than 5 seconds. We got to see the old Danny Dimes from the New York Giants days and why he was eventually released from the Giants as a result of it. And then, of course, the backup situation. Is it Anthony Richardson? He's been demoted to quarterback 3 behind Riley Leonard, but there's been a lot of people upset that Riley Leonard has looked terrible in the preseason. But as you pointed out, it's preseason. How much of that truly matters? So that's a mess. And I'll be honest, too. I think I speak for most Colts fans when I say the day that the GM, Chris Ballard, gets fired, there will be probably a parade in Indianapolis because he's been the GM for like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
He hasn't made it to the playoffs. He hasn't won a playoff game. Like, it has been an absolute disaster with it. And how he's managed to still make it through, I think, like 3 coaching changes and he's still not fired. It's like,
he's a cockroach.
He is, dude. It's funny you say that. So earlier, because I listened to like Brady Quinn and LeVar Arrington as I'm driving into work, and LeVar brought it up about. He said, "Man, there's always that one coach on the team. It's like he manages to make it through like 3 or 4 coaching staff. It's like, dude, how do you do? You are the roach. Like you are the roach of the coaching staff.
Right
through all the nuclear fallout, you still just come scurrying out like, hey guys, I'm still here." That's Chris Ballard. Like, I don't know how you managed to keep getting out of this unscathed.
Yeah, so if anybody's wondering, we're not making fun of anybody. We're just stating when somebody says that a person's a cockroach, that means that they've been in that position, in that area for so long, and it just even with like unbelievable coaching changes, owner changes that the Indianapolis Colts have done in the last 5 years, like he's still there,
Still there.
He's still there. They were having trouble with him and with Chuck Strong, So, I mean, it's just crazy how he's still there. You guys lost Andrew Luck, and he's still there. That's
still there.
Nuts.
It is. It's absolutely nuts. It's one of those. I'm kind of upset that I have to use the term cockroach on him because part of me wants to use the term like foreskin, where he disappears when things get hard. But I don't know if that necessarily counts in his case or not. But it's one of those. It's like, man, I hope it does, so I can just use it at least once, at least once.
And remember that the 9 times out of 10, the manager doesn't really know how to play football. The manager just knows how to pick and stuff like that. That's why you have to give it a little bit of a grain of salt. Because one thing that I don't think he does is with a football team, you want to build outside to inside. You want to build around the quarterback. And the Indianapolis Colts, you would think that they would have learned with Manning because they didn't, even though Manning was great for the Indianapolis Colts and he was amazing for the Denver Broncos, I do think that the culture of how they create the team, how they recruit the team, how they place the team, I do think, especially like Andrew Luck, being him and Manny, they're kind of like coaches, on the chessboard. That's great. But just remember, when they're gone, that hole's there.
Yep. And I think Cincinnati is going to be the next team that has to deal with that, because Joe Burrow has been that guy for them as far as, hey, like he begged them to go get Jamar Chase, his former teammate from my LSU Tigers in his national championship win. He's like, hey, go get my guy. He is the best wide receiver. You won't regret it. And sure enough, it comes to be true. But every time he's like, hey, I need you to get this. No, we don't want to do that. And he pointed out, it's like basically it's this year or bust. And I think Cincinnati, and it's funny because Cincinnati is run very similar as far as, we don't really want to do that. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to waste another generational talent that could take you to greatness and make you great. And you're going to absolutely flounder it because you're either pride, you believe that you're smarter than he is, or you just don't want to listen, or you just don't want to fork up the extra money.
Or he's uncoachable.
Or he's uncoachable. So it is weird to see, you would think a guy that you're like, you know what, we're going to trust you enough to pay you a crap ton of money. You would think if you have an investment like that, you might want to listen to your investment of like, we paid him a ton of money. Maybe we should hear what this guy wants. If he's our star worker, maybe we should listen to who our star worker wants to work with instead of, no, we think this will work for you. No. But I think that's why, and I even use this on I probably use this when I shouldn't have, on a more higher status coworker at my job now. She kind of did one of those where she came in and she's making all these suggestions. I'm like, you haven't even been here to see this. And it's funny because she was also a retired colonel. I said, one of my favorite people I used to ever work with was the Secretary of Defense, James Madison. He retired as a 4-star. I said, but do you know what his nickname was when he was in? She goes, I don't know what. I said, it was Chaos. You know why it was Chaos? She goes, no. I said, it was an acronym for Colonel always has another outstanding solution. And
that reminds me of Iraq. Every time a squad leader farted, he was like, keep on talking, sir. We'll find you.
Yep. and it was so funny after I told her about the call sign Chaos and what it stood for. I got talked to about that not too long after. I'm like, hey, that's the most intelligent, professional way I could basically say you're an idiot.
Right?
In the most respectful way at the same time. But Joel, brother, it has been a blast as always. Appreciate talking to you. Appreciate you joining me. Definitely check out Joel. He like I said, he is the man behind the scenes as far as making military broadcast radio go. He took this, he helped take this dream on and has since amplified it. MBR is such a cool thing. When I first applied and talked to Joel and he got to hear me, he's like, man, you just got something about you. You already had a lot of the core basics and fundamentals. And he's just continuing to make me better. He's continuing to make all the veterans here at MBR better as far as being able to tell their stories, being able to host podcasts and whatnot. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely check out mbradio.us. You can find other great veteran hosts. You can find Joel because he hops in and out of everywhere. And obviously he helps veterans pretty much with everything that we do, our backgrounds, intros, overlays, all of that stuff. He's helped have a hand in that. So definitely check them out. And then, of course, also check out Gunfighter Beard Co. because if you want a great beard, if you want great beard care products, smell good, and it's all natural. Plus, kind of the cool thing about beard care stuff, too, like if you're ever sunburned and you're like, man, I am just peeling constantly, and you keep trying to get aloe, and it gets sticky, and it gets built up, use a little bit of beard oil, changes the entire world because it keeps that dry skin moisturized, keeps it better. Same with the beard butter. You can melt that down, just with the hands on your heat from your hands. Roll that on there. Use a little bit of moisturizer. And again, you smell good. So definitely check him out. He's a Marine in South Carolina. Great dude. But appreciate everybody tuning in. And we will see you next week as college football's back. And then shortly after, the NFL is going to be back too. So we will see y'all later.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Beaker with Military Broadcast Radio TV. We're your virtual MWR, bringing veterans radio, podcasts, gaming, animation, 3D printing, and a community that never leaves you behind. Download our Roku or mobile app today.
Wisdom to share if you listen this week, so pull up a chair and stay for a spell. We're headed trail where good stories dwell. It started